On January 29th, 2025, an American Airlines flight collided with a U.S. Army helicopter over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. Then, on February 1st, a medical jet crashed in a Philadelphia neighborhood, creating a massive fireball. On February 6th, not even a week later, an aircraft in Alaska disappeared from radar and was later found in the Bering Sea. All three of these crashes had no survivors. This year, there have been 85 plane crashes in the United States so far, 9 of which were fatal. These high-profile crashes, alongside many others reported on by the media, have caused fear in many people, leading them to beg the question: why are so many planes crashing? Are airplane crashes on the rise? Is it still safe to fly? To answer this question, I took a look at the National Safety Transportation Board's website and found some data on how many crashes there were in previous years matching the same time period, that being from January 1st to February 21st, the date this video is being recorded. As you can see from this chart I made from data on the site, there have actually been less crashes so far this year than there were in previous years. So if that's the case, why does it feel like planes are crashing so much? I dug a little deeper and took to 4 sites to get the answer to my new question, those being the news section of Google's homepage, ProQuest, the New York Times Articles Archive, and the Internet Archive's TV News Archive. In each of these sites, I searched how many articles, or for Internet Archive's case, TV mentions, showed up when you searched the words plane crash, and added a filter to specifically get results from January 1st to February 21st of this year. I did the same for several previous years, then took the results I got from each year and divided it by the number of plane crashes there had been that year, to get a ratio of how many news articles and TV mentions there were per plane crash. I then took those numbers and turned them into a couple more charts. As you can see, despite an ultimately lower number of plane crashes this year, there are way more results than there were in previous years. Now, the media's tendency to sensationalize events is pretty well known, but to really prove my point, I found another case of a similar thing happening. On February 3rd, 2023, a Norfolk Southern freight train carrying hazardous materials derailed in East Palestine, Ohio. The surrounding area was evacuated as several cars burned for more than 2 days, and ultimately the derailment injured 7, and a wrongful death lawsuit alleges that 7 others were killed as a result. This was clearly a complete disaster. And, once again, after the derailment, the media began reporting on train derailments much more frequently than they had previously. As you can see, while 2023 did have a slightly higher number of derailments than other years, it certainly isn't an outsized margin, but reporting on the event tells a different story. Using the same method as earlier, and adjusting the dates to match the same amount of time before and after the derailment as I measured before and after the January 29th plane crash, we can see that indeed, reporting on train derailments spiked in February of 2023. And while the upward trend did continue on Google, on every other metric I used, it went back down. So, I hope this video helps assuage many of your valid fears of what seems to be happening in the air. And before I end this, I would like to add a few caveats and reminders. Firstly, I'm just some 20-something in a college town, and am by no means an expert on this subject, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, and I encourage you to do your own research on both this and other topics. Secondly, I don't want anything to be misconstrued. I'm not saying that I know for certain everything is completely fine, especially with Donald Trump making so many changes which could negatively impact air travel safety in the future. The point of this video is merely to show that media attention on plane crashes is very outsized right now, as that's just how the media works. The actual situation isn't quite as bad as many have been led to believe, and the data we have right now just doesn't support the idea that there are actually more plane crashes happening. Lastly, I want to encourage everyone to always remain vigilant and critical of the media they consume. Make sure that you are being diligent in fact-checking information you find, especially if it's on social media websites or in comment sections. And always, always, always make sure what you're saying is true before you share it. Oh, and there's never really a natural time to mention this in the video, but I do use she, her pronouns, so please respect that. Everyone have a great day and stay safe.